Hey patrons, have you ever wondered if the Quran is even really falsifiable to a Muslim? Well, according to Zakir Naik, that's totally possible. All you gotta do is succeed at one simple challenge.
There are other falsification tests. You will say, I'm not a Jew, but I want to prove the Quran wrong. How can I prove it? Allah has given everyone a chance. Allah says in the Quran, in Surah Isra, chapter number 17, verse number 88, do they say he forged it? Try and produce a Quran like unto it. I mean, do you say the Quran is forged?
No, I don't think it's a forgery. I think it's a work of fiction. Based heavily on public domain stories, of course, like a new novel about Frankenstein or something.
I mean, do you say the Quran is forged? Try and produce a Quran like it.
Well, that sounds pretty simple. I know what those words mean. Produce a Quran like it. Yeah, couldn't be more clear and concise as a sentence. So if it's that simple, that must mean it's a reasonable request, right?
The same challenge is repeated in Surah Tur, chapter number 52, verse number 34. Allah challenges that try and produce a Quran like it, and you'll never be able to do it. Even if all the jinns and the humankind gather together, they will never be able to produce the like of the Quran without the help of Allah.
There's lots of things like the Quran. Take the Bible, for example. It has remarkable similarities to the Quran. So do quite a few religious books. The stories, the rules, ideas like prophets receiving messages from God and so on. There's a ton of overlap. Now, obviously they're not identical. That's kind of what makes them not the same book. But they are alike in a lot of ways. So challenge complete, right? But you're talking as if that challenge still hasn't been met. So apparently you mean something else by the word like than everybody else does. Some very specific definition that you've come up with, or that Muhammad came up with, by which standard the Quran is unlike any other book ever written. But I'm getting ahead of myself though. You're not done talking, so please clarify this so the challenge at least makes some kind of sense.
It's a challenge.
Not yet it isn't. Right now I wouldn't call it anything more than a half-baked idea for a challenge. You haven't told us any detailed criteria that'll let any observer objectively determine if someone's passed or failed the challenge. If you stop here, the only thing that'll decide if someone's passed or failed is whether you want them to. And that's obviously ridiculous, right? That can't possibly be what you want. So please continue forward, expanding on your idea.
Now Allah makes the challenge easier. Allah says in Surah Hud, chapter number 11, verse number 13, do they say he forged it? Produce 10 surahs forged like unto it. Not the whole Quran. Difficult? Forget it. That challenge is difficult. Produce 10 surahs like the Quran. And call forth for help anyone besides Allah. And you'll never be able to do it.
Oh, it's a lot worse than that. Without any sort of objective criteria, I'd be unable to do it, and able to do it, and everything in between based on just how the person grading my work interprets the word like, and their personal taste and how much they like me. I'd be forever suspended somewhere between total failure and total success until someone defines the challenge better.
Allah makes the challenge easier, much easier. In Surah Yunus, chapter number 10, verse number 38, do they say he forged it? Produce one surah like it. One. Not the whole Quran, not 10 surah, one surah like it. And call forth for help anyone who you want besides Allah, and you'll not be able to do it.
Yes, I got it. Create a bit of writing like a little bit of the Quran. Yeah. But like it how? Something isn't just like something else in no particular way, it's like it in a particular quality. By a specified standard, it's similar. So in what way is this piece of writing supposed to be like the Quran, Zach? In meaning? In literary devices? In tone? Mood? Linguistic register? Sentence structure? Meter? Language? Whether people fluent in classical Arabic but somehow unfamiliar with the Quran are consistently able to identify it as out of place among a random selection of real Quranic verses? Or maybe just some subjective feeling you personally get when you read it. Or maybe all of the above, plus also being just a line copied out of the Quran.
No response.
I'm responding, hello, right here, just like everyone else who's responded to this. You're not listening, probably because the only response you want to hear is, duh, here's my dumbass attempt to meet your nonsensical challenge, sir. Instead of, this challenge makes no fucking sense and you're a moron if you think it does.
Now Allah makes the test much easier. Allah says in Surah Baqarah, chapter number 2, verse number 23 and 24, Allah says, وَإِن كُنْتُمْ فِي رَيْبٍ مِّمَّا نَزَّلْنَا عَلَى عَبْدِنَا. And if you are in doubt, as what we have revealed to our servant from time to time, فَأْتُوا بِسُورَةٍ مِّن مِّثْلِهِ. Produce a surah somewhat similar to it. Mim misli. It's not misli. Mim misli means somewhat similar. not exactly like the Quran. Try and produce one surah somewhat similar to the Quran. Misli. Wad'u shuhada'akum min dunillah in kuntum sadiqin. Call forth for help and witnesses. Anyone you want besides Allah, if you speak the truth.
Okay, somewhat similar. So I pick a verse from the Quran that has verb, subject, object, word order, and then I write any random sentence I want in any language with verb, subject, object, word order, and there you go, it's somewhat similar. Or maybe we just take the shortest verse in the Quran, Ha-Mim, that's 2 letters with no stated meaning, and I just write my own verse of 2 letters with no stated meaning. Jim Dal. What does it mean? Who fucking knows? Who cares? It's 2 letters, it doesn't mean jack shit, and thus it's objectively somewhat like yours. Challenge accepted, challenge met. If you're being honest about this, of course. But are you sure you'd actually accept that? Or are there maybe just a few little details you're leaving unstated that would make you refuse to call this a successful attempt? There must be if you've rejected literally everything ever written as being even somewhat like any verse in the Quran. Well, a real challenge doesn't leave its criteria for success unstated, Zach. It has clear rules for success and failure. So tell me what they are or lick on my lollipop, Zach.
But if you cannot, walan taf'alu, and of a surety you cannot.
I just did, unless you have more to say.
And be prepared for the fire whose fuel is men and stones.
Oh, and now we start in with the threats, eh? Muhammad wasn't even confident enough that his intentionally malformed challenge would stop people from convincing others the Quran's not so fucking special that he had to pile this weak bitch shit on top of it, eh? Wow, that is pathetic.
You will not be able to do it, and of a surety you cannot do it. And be prepared for the fire whose fuel is men and stones. This is a challenge. Try and produce a surah somewhat similar to it. Now you'll tell me, but Nachal, if it is a test, you have to produce a surah in Arabic. So you'll say, Brother Zakir, I don't know Arabic, so how can I take part in this test? I said, fine. If you produce a surah like the Quran, it has to be in Arabic. It can't be in English, can't be in French, can't be in Hindi, can't be in Urdu.
Hey, there you go. Now we have one way to judge the outcome of this challenge. Better than I was expecting. So whatever we write has to be like the Quran in the language that's used. Is that all? No other criteria? Alright, so anything ever written in Arabic meets every criteria you've specified and therefore meets the challenge.
Many people tried, not that they didn't try. Many, hundreds of people tried and they failed miserably.
Did they? Did they accidentally write in French or what? You'd think you'd have to try really hard to fuck up that bad.
They were able to rhyme it, but went away from reality.
Wow, those are criteria too, aren't they? Aw, this is exciting. Okay. It may or may not need to follow the same rhyme scheme. It's implied but not concretely stated. And also they need to not go away from reality, whatever that means. Well, since you think the Quran represents reality, I guess you mean the new verse has to have the same meaning or at least not contradict the one it's supposed to be like. Okay, so a sentence in Arabic that probably rhymes with, well, not with the verses around it, since we're only doing one verse, so I guess it follows the internal rhyme scheme of the verse we're trying to make it like, if applicable. And it has to mean the same bollocks the verse we're imitating says, or at least not contradict it. Now we're really getting somewhere. I was getting worried. I thought you didn't understand the importance of the details in a challenge like this, but I can see that you do. But so far this is an awfully easy set of rules to follow. Literally any Arabic speaker could come up with a valid answer in about as long as it'd take their hand to draw the letters. So there must be more rules. What are they?
Many people tried, and many are available in the books, but all of them failed miserably.
And that's the end of the video. No more details provided, but hey, at least there were some. I wasn't expecting that going in, so that's better than I thought. I kind of just assumed since the Quran doesn't include any details, you wouldn't just make up a bunch of details of your own and jam them into God's mouth. I thought that was majorly frowned upon in Islam, but you did it, so I'm happy. Kind of sets the whole argument up for failure though, since now someone can easily write something that objectively passes every part of this test. But of course there wouldn't really be much of a point, because we all know what would happen if you actually showed the result to Zakir Naik. Wow, what a miserable failure this is, because I say so. Anyway, thank you guys for all your support this month, and see you on the next one.